Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. This is BP Live. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. With me is Andrew Erickson, the Undertaker himself, and it's all of you hanging out here on the YouTube channel. We're going to be chatting a little NFL, seeing where things take us. Yesterday, we did a look-ahead show, and Matt Peralta and I gave our feelings about the early lines and a recap of what we saw from the Minnesota Vikings, or maybe didn't see enough of out of the Minnesota Vikings. But regardless, Andrew Erickson, we are here again to discuss some of the NFL games. Don't forget, everybody, coming up on Saturday, 4:15, Joe Pisapia, Scott Bogman, right here on the channel. Tune in, turn it up. It's going to be in-game live betting. We're going to give you our favorite bets of the Chiefs-Texans game. We're going to take you through the first half of that game together. It's going to be glorious. Hanging out with your friends, talking football, nothing's better than that. So ring the bell till it goes ding, subscribe to the channel, and join us this Saturday, 4:15 Eastern, for Texans Chiefs. All right, let's start here with you, Andrew Erickson. Speaking of Texans Chiefs, looking at this number, still floating around the 8.5. I've had a little bit more time. And I went back and I was watching some more of the last time these two teams matched up with each other just a few weeks ago. But I keep coming back to that same thing, which is Andy Reid with a lot of time to prepare is typically a very dangerous thing. Andy Reid off a bye, the record is very good. So how much does that equate to you and factor into your decision-making process when you're looking and evaluating this game?
I think that for me, it goes back to the simple fact that the Chiefs win, but they don't blow teams out. And I don't think that the Texans are a team that, their strongest part of their team is their defense. And that would suggest to me that this game is probably a little bit tighter scoring. The under-over is not massive. I mean, we have some games this week that are north of 50 points, north of 55 points, and this game is not even close. It's not even the same. Are they playing the same game, Joe? I don't know. But we're not going to see a ton of points, offensive explosion. That's not really the way I look at this game. So yeah, I think it's kind of chalky, but Chiefs win, but don't cover. It's kind of what the MO has been for them all year long. 8.5 points. Again, if it was closer to like it was the first time around when it was Chiefs minus 3.5. Okay. Now I'll take the Chiefs with the points or Chiefs laying the points, but at 8.5, like I'll just take the Texans. They're going to lose, but I don't think they're going to lose by more than a touchdown.
Well, 41 is the number two that I keep looking at also, where 41.5, it just seems a little light for this game. A game with Patrick Mahomes, a game with some of the talent that's here. And look, some of the talent is now healthy too. I also got a bye week for Travis Kelce, another week for DeAndre Hopkins. These veterans getting some rest is, I guess, very important. And the Chiefs know how to prepare for this. Not like I don't expect them to come out as flat as the Eagles did in the first half. Ryan with a question here. So Xavier Worthy over smash. That's an interesting conversation here. So what you saw last week, the inability to stop Lad McConkey, is it Worthy? Is it Hollywood Brown? Or is it DeAndre Hopkins or Kelce you got to worry about in this game if you're the Texans?
So I like Worthy a lot. I believe his receiving prop is anywhere between 48.5, 49.5, 50.5 receiving yards. It's kind of fluctuated between that type of number. I like the over. I mean, Worthy has been the Chiefs' leading receiver since week 11. And I know they've added some pieces here. They've added Marquise Brown into the fold. But when you look at the last time these two teams faced off, what was working in the passing game? Xavier Worthy, quick hitters, yards after the catch. I don't see why having guys like Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, they'll get away from, let's use our guy that's super fast as our underneath option, yards after the catch after we saw Lad McConkey run for like an 80-yard touchdown against the same defense. So I think that Worthy remains the staple. And then I think it's interesting between trying to figure out like Hollywood, DeAndre, Kelce, who's going to catch the touchdown from Patrick Mahomes, I think is the way to approach it. But I think from a consistency standpoint, I do like Worthy a lot. He's been really involved, and I expect that to continue.
All right. And look who's in the chat here. Look, it's Derek Brown, ladies and gentlemen, Houston pass rush to make this game close. Now, I will say, Houston pass rush, very impressive last week. Do you feel that was the moment here where let's play with a chip on our shoulder? We took it personally. Do you think maybe too much of an emotional game for them? Does enough carry over into this game against the Chiefs? Or you think like maybe they just let it all hang out there? That's the best they have to offer, because it's kind of hard to keep up with that momentum, that's whole like, oh, no one's believing in us, but you're at home and then everybody's there supporting you. It's a little different, I think, when you go to Kansas City, especially outdoors too.
Yeah, I think that this matchup's going to be way different. look, Houston's had a good pass rush all year, and I'll take the L. I didn't consider it enough last week when they were playing the Chargers. I'm like, no, like they got Joe out, they got Slater, like, oh, they'll be fine. And of course, that wasn't the case. And Justin Herbert was under pressure on 50% of his dropbacks. But going back to the first time we saw this matchup, Patrick Mahomes was getting the ball out of his hands really quick. Like they were prepared for the Texans to try to pin their ears back and get after him. How do you stop that? Get the ball out quick to guys like you're worthy. So I don't think that it matters really as much that Houston has a great pass rush. They've had a great pass rush the entire season, and they haven't won a lot of games necessarily. So, again, I still think it's going to be a lower scoring game in line with the point total, which is why I like the Texans 8.5. But I still think the Chiefs are going to win, and I think they'll probably win. Again, I think we'll look up at the score and think that, oh, like this was a close game. But I think it's going to be like, no, like Chiefs played well, like 24-17 kind of feels like a score to me, where the Chiefs kind of win. Yeah.
An interesting development here. We have David Montgomery, who is back at practice. Now, Andrew Erickson. I don't know if a lot of us were thinking that was going to happen. Right now, I can't find any consensus lines on David Montgomery. I'm sure we'll get updated as time goes on. Do you anticipate him playing in this game between the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions? And do you think you are going to be investing in David Montgomery in his first game back? Certainly anytime touchdown is one that I would be looking for, especially coming out on that first drive, first touchdown score too. That's usually where, the Lions are going to have a lot of time here to figure out what they want to do. They've had 2 weeks here to really prepare. I think if Montgomery is healthy, I love him as that first touchdown scorer. Is there any investments regarding him, or maybe any other further thoughts you might have about the impact he might make on this game?
Did you sneak a peek at my WordPress document for the Betting Pros? I mean, that's what I wrote up. David Montgomery, first touchdown.
Maybe. Did you really? Look
yes.
at this.
David Montgomery, first
great minds thinking
touchdown,
alike.
plus 500. So 5-1 odds that you're getting on David Montgomery. You're getting a little value on it because we're not sure about his workload, whatever. He doesn't need to see a lot of snaps to be the hammer in the red zone, which is what he's done all year. Fun fact, David Montgomery has the most first touchdowns on the Lions this season. He missed the last 4 games, and he still has the most first touchdowns on the team. I look back at last year in the games where David Montgomery returned after extended time off because of injuries. He averaged 2 touchdowns in those games. He totaled 4 touchdowns in those 2 games after missing time because of injuries. So they have not shown any slow playing of David Montgomery in the past when he's active after an injury. He's practicing in full. He's not even limited. So, yes, it's always possible that they throw the ball or Jahmyr Gibbs scores the first touchdown. But at the odds you're getting, which should not be this high for David Montgomery, or this long for David Montgomery, I'd rather just do the first touchdown because it's still – I think it's still like minus 135 for an anytime touchdown for Montgomery, whereas the first touchdown
138, it looks like D-Bro is saying here. But the first time, that's the one I was looking for too. So look at us. Look at us. See, just right on the same. I knew we would be on the same page for this one, which is super nice. Now, what about Jahmyr Gibbs too? Do you think that people will start to fade away from him a little bit with Montgomery back? I think that would be an enormous mistake, by the way. I'm just saying, I wonder if that mindset of, we got to dial back our expectations for Jahmyr Gibbs, if anything, I hope that happens. And I hope the lines react to it a little bit, because then I want to go all the overs on Jahmyr Gibbs, because that guy's been absolutely spectacular here. And I don't expect Montgomery, as you said, necessarily to have the full volume, but he will get full goal line opportunities, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think that Gibbs has shown that he can get to 100 yards and 10 carries. He can do it. I mean, this guy doesn't need 25 touches to get to where you want him to go. He can do it in one play. So it's rare that you have a player like Gibbs with his ability to, I mean, it seems like every week he hits his longest rushing yards or longest rush over. So that's always seems like it's always in play, but no, I'm not concerned about it, especially against the Commanders, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. The Lions are going to be able to have their way offensively to do whatever they want, whether they want to throw it, whether they want to run it. They're going to be able to feed their guys. It's just a matter of, okay, like we know they're going to score 30. Now, how do we divvy up these points?
Yeah. Well, the 84.5 on the rush yards right now, minus 114. That's a consensus. 3.5 receptions over is plus 139. That's interesting to me.
So I would say with the reception specifically, so with David Montgomery, that's where I would be more hesitant to take it with.
Well, that's funny because he has gone over the 3.5 receptions every single week since week 14.
And that's when Montgomery got hurt. So
yes,
that's why. That's why I don't think. I would say.
But I mean, the plus money is really intriguing there. 24.5 is the number on the receiving yards too. That also has been an over every week since week 14. So was it Montgomery? I'm trying to remember what week it was that he actually got hurt.
He
Montgomery.
missed the last 4 games. So
Was
15,
it the
16,
last four?
17,
So
18.
15, 16. So
Yep.
14 was the one he did go over it. So there you go. Like, so again, I just don't anticipate Dave Montgomery coming back full bore first day back. I do think he'll get some work in the goal line. He has touchdown equity, first touchdown equity, absolutely, without a doubt. I'd be looking at, but I would be still looking at Jahmyr Gibbs. He's been that guy. And maybe also you have to recognize it. Look, part of why they've been so good and scoring so many points these last few weeks too is the explosiveness of Jahmyr Gibbs. And you want to get that guy the football too. And let's not forget, also, Washington, one of the worst teams against the run too. They've given up a ton of rushing yards. So I think if you are looking for a perfect storm there where people might be fading Gibbs, this might be a time to turn things around. Before we get to the Sunday games, quick reminder too, we're giving away free stuff. A Jalen Waddle Dolphins jersey could be yours. All you have to do is go over to our contest, and our friends at pristineauction.com are giving away this jersey. All you have to do is subscribe to Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on this video, any video. That's it. That's all you got to do, and we'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel. So make sure you turn on those notifications so you know when new videos are up, and you can claim your prize of the Jalen Waddle autographed jersey thanks to our good pals at pristineauction.com. All right, let's get to the next game here on the docket to discuss the Rams and the Eagles. So far here, this number hasn't really moved. Still around 6 here or everywhere you're seeing it. 44 is the total, plus 225 on the Rams. It feels like there's a lot of value for the Rams upset, and I get it. I think they've got a lot of momentum right now, a lot of feels, as people like to say. I know the Eagles have been dysfunctional all year. I know they've won despite or the dysfunction, or maybe they're just a team that feeds off of it, as some teams oddly do. But as this has sunk in for you a little bit more and you've had more time to digest and dissect, do you have any new thoughts to share with us on the Rams-Eagles game on Sunday?
I think the Rams are live for the upset. I mean, I think if there's an upset this week, not really counting Buffalo and Baltimore, because I think that spread is suggesting that's going to be a close game. So I don't really think that if the Bills win, it's not really an upset, even if they're underdogs. But this is the game where the Rams win. Oh, it's panic is ensuing in the Philadelphia streets. Like they're absolutely freaking out.
Not good.
And look, I looked more at it when it comes to how this Rams team has performed on the road as underdogs, or just in general as underdogs. They were underdogs against the 49ers twice this year, won both games. Underdogs against the Vikings twice this year, won both games. Underdogs against the Bills, won that game outright. Like, this team has been up against the market as an underdog and beaten some really good teams. So why can't they go into Philadelphia and come away with a win? I think they're done going to cover. I think you can still get plus 6.5. I'm still seeing that line, I think, at some of the sports books. So I like the Rams here. Again, they are 5-0 against the spread on the road for the last 5 road games. If you include the wild card round against the Minnesota Vikings, which technically was a neutral site, but kind of like a road game because they had to travel, 6-0 against the spread on the road. So look, again, going back to where's the coaching advantage? We're really going to take Sirianni? Do we really feel confident in this?
And look, Stafford is a Ram in the playoffs, 15 touchdowns, 5-1 record. Yeah, I mean, they're a game away from the NFC Championship game right now. I mean, it's pretty good.
I mean, do we want? I mean, if Jared Goff is really going to do it this year and get the Lions to the Super Bowl, does he not have to do it by beating the Rams? Like, isn't that just so poetic that he has to do it in this way, in this fashion? Again, and that's a rematch of week 1, right? When the Rams played the Lions and that game went down to the wire. So, look, the Rams seemed like a team that they seemed buried, right? But like they were going to trade Cooper Kupp, they're going to trade Matthew Stafford. Now they find themselves in the divisional round. And yeah, I think they're live here, but I definitely like them catching the points, especially at 6.5.
All right, let's talk about the bigger picture here then, because you think the Rams are live, let's say they win. Do you think they have an opportunity to beat the Detroit Lions in Detroit?
Yeah, I think they do. Because
they lost to them last year in the playoffs. Remember, I mean, basically, not quite the same team, a different defense. I think you would say year over year. Offensively, pretty much the same roster you're getting. Defensively, different. I will give you that. But I mean, that's the tough part. Is can they overcome? Because if you think so, then you got to start looking at the future here. We have plus 1,600 for a Rams Chiefs Super Bowl. Trying to look at the number here for the Baltimore Ravens and Rams will be plus 2,200. So that's also an interesting conversation. This is something we haven't really got into yet, which, again, this is a good time. I have all the Lions and Chiefs shares from the beginning of the season and midseason. that you could possibly handle. Andrew already knows this. However, I did hedge a little bit here with some Lions-Ravens because I think the Ravens are playing the best football of anybody right now, and running the football and playing good defense, that usually gets you to the Super Bowl. So I did hedge a little bit, just saying, in that matchup. I did like it. But it is certainly something right now. Do you have any shares that you think that you are starting to look at in terms of combinations for the Super Bowl now? Because we all know once we go through another week of elimination, these odds go down significantly.
Yeah, so I think the stuff that I have, so I have a Chiefs Super Bowl ticket, Lions Super Bowl ticket, Eagles to win the NFC. So that's also kind of why I'm hedging by taking the Rams again with the points, playing the Eagles. I hope the Eagles will win, for my my bankroll's sake. But hey, the Rams can cover and the Eagles can still win. So it's a win-win for me. So not as heavily invested in this particular matchups. I think the ones I had preseason were Bengal. I mean, I had so much Bengal stuff, and I just got sad, to be honest. I was just so sad after the way that season played out, because we know the Bengals could have made so much noise in the playoffs. But I mean, it is what it is at this point. So
Sam here in the chat is talking about Barkley, which is also something I wanted to bring up with you. So Sam, thank you for reminding me, because last time Saquon Barkley faced the Rams, 255 yards was the total. That's a lot of rushing yards. It was quite a show that he put on. 111 and a half right now is his number. I mean, that's absurd. I've already bet the Henry over, and I think it was 101 or something like that. I forgot what it was yesterday. Matt Peralta and I were on together, and we were doing that with the touchdown, that combination. That was one of our favorite little combo bets. But Barkley this week, too. I mean, certainly the Eagles showed the Rams, okay, this is what we do. Do you think Sean McVay has the defense in a place right now that they can react to it better the second time around?
Not really. No, not really.
Okay.
I don't think this is a scenario where, he's going to go for 200 yards again. I don't think this is a Derrick Henry versus the Houston Texans scenario where every year he just rushed for 200 yards against the same defense. That being said, I think that they probably will be at least a little bit more prepared. So again, I'm not going to go against Saquon. I don't think I've touched Barkley's rushing props at all this year, just because.
Well, it's funny, Andrew, because he's actually gone over this number every single week since week 11, save 2, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, 2 of the best teams against the run. So that is kind of interesting when you throw that out there. So even though it sounds like an absurdly large number, maybe it isn't.
Look, it's such a big, again, guys can get hurt. Like, that's always the concern. It's such a big number for him to get to. And I think there are better props that you can then bet than just taking the Saquon Barkley overs.
All right. What about AJ Brown? So the AJ Brown book club, by the way, did you see that the book that he was reading went from like number 180 something on Amazon to number 1 overnight because people started buying whatever it was. I forgot the name of it.
Dude, you gotta ship AJ Brown a black book and have him read it.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, bro, like I'll split some stuff with you, man. Fantasy football baseball black book's out right now on Amazon. When that football black book comes around, I got to get that in his hands. Be like, hey, bro, do me a solid. Read this a little bit. I'll split the profits 50-50 with you.
If we see AJ Brown end up on the New England Patriots next year with Vrabel, I'll try to get in the building.
Are you thinking some sort of reunion? I never even thought of that.
Vrabel didn't want to trade Brown. He was the guy that was pissed about it. Bring him back. AJ Brown on the record has said he wanted to be drafted by the Patriots. Yes.
Nothing would make me happier. You go get him and T. Higgins and let's go. Let's go. Just you got all the cap room. Come on. Anyway,
they don't throw in Philadelphia anyway. We're gonna throw at least a little bit.
That's true.
Not 50 times though. Not 50 times.
Well, look, I mean, Drake May. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of people to throw to. If you give him AJ Brown or T. Higgins or both, we're gonna throw the ball a little bit more. All right, so let's take a look. The up and down nature of AJ Brown makes it really tough to invest. So comes down to, do you have any gauge right now on receptions, on yardage? You want to go over, you want to go under? It's basically how you see this game script working out.
I think the best way is just touchdowns. I think that's what I would do.
That's a plus 145 for him in most markets right now.
I don't think they're going to. Is Jahan Dotson really going to catch another touchdown? That's not happening.
Probably not. God, I hated that. That made me so angry. Like, there's nothing that makes me angry. If it was Devonta Smith, I'm like, okay, whatever. If it was Dallas Goedert, whatever. But Jahan Dotson.
And the play itself, too, because it was the longest play where quarterback threw a touchdown in the pocket. So he was going through every single read. And then finally, after like 10 seconds, and then he throws the ball to Jahan Dotson. So clearly Dotson was not like, oh, we're going to get this ball to Dotson on this play. He was the not the last read, but the last read after the last read on that particular play. So again, this happens all the time with AJ Brown, where he has one game, he doesn't get enough targets, blah, blah, blah. He says he's not frustrated, and then he scores the next week, right? He also had a big game against the Rams. Again, Barkley obviously had the massive game, but AJ Brown went over 100 yards, scored a touchdown against the Rams. We still know the Rams secondary is still not great. Like, this is a very beatable secondary. And I think if you are the Rams defense, you're like, honestly, we'll take our chances with Jalen Hurts throwing the ball. Like, we can't let Saquon just rush for 250 yards against us because they got destroyed when it was that game scenario. So, yeah, I think they're going to try to push the Eagles into throwing the ball a little bit more. I think that's good for AJ Brown.
Playlist has a question here. Thoughts on Monty anytime touchdown, B-Rob under 37.5, and Shakir over 52.5 for 17.6x money on underdog. And Playlist says, basically, I'm just looking at the Andrew Erickson betting profile. So there you go. The BP profile of Andrew Erickson is out there for everybody to see, as is mine, as is Peralt's and all of ours here. So what do you think of putting those three things together? I don't know how I feel about the Shakir thing. That's the only thing. Like, I don't know if I'm there on that one yet.
So it was the over on Shakir's like 52. So Shakir's
the over on the 52.5, the under on the 37.5 for B-Rob, and then the anytime touchdown for Monty.
Okay, so we talked about Monty already. We like his touchdown odds. We like the first one, but again, if he's going to have any role, it's going to be in the end zone or in the red zone. So I think that one's good. Brian Robinson, yeah, he has been under this number, I think, 3 of his last 4 games.
Well, I just don't think game script is going to portend well.
That's the other thing too. And they use him and Eckler they've been using them kind of interchangeably since Eckler came back from his injury. They're using a lot of the pony personnel, which is really fun to say, pony personnel, when they use 2 true running backs, not to be confused with teams that use a running back and a fullback. That's a different personnel. So Brian Robinson, I think, is more alive for like a touchdown, but I think we're going to see a lot more of just Jaden Daniels running. I think that's really going to be like how the Commanders move the ball offensively. As for Shakir, he's been the most consistent of the Bills wide receivers. And if this is a game where Buffalo has to be throwing, which they're underdogs, yeah, I think Shakir, again, he's been consistently hitting over 49 receiving yards. So look, again, I like all these plays individually. These are not correlated in any way, shape, or form. So that is my only hesitance, because I like to try to correlate some of these when I can. But there are 3 bets I like. So yeah, parlay them together and you get a fat payout. So it worked out.
Why not? You know what I would do? I would just take the B-Rob and then the first time touchdown scorer and give myself a different variance there, because that's an even bigger payout, I imagine, too, because that's what, plus 500, he said?
Yes. And that's also a same game one. And that's a same game one. And that's one that you don't have to sweat into the next day, right? That's Saturday only. And because the Sunday Bills, I don't like doing that, Joe. Like when I have like bets where it's like over.
I mean, the only nice thing about that is some places they'll encourage you to cash out of it.
Yeah.
You know, which is that I'm fine with that. You can do that you could still do that. And if you can decide whether or not you want to be gready. And you know, I'm somebody who takes the money and runs. Like even the Josh Allen
wisely
share that I had. Well, here's the thing. Like FanDuel was offering me about 85% of the money on my Josh Allen MVP bet because it got so deep. So I just took it, because what if Lamar at the end, you know, did close the gap enough where it got close? Like, that's okay. I'll give 10% of that money back that I've already made money on. Again, did it make money? Yes. Good. Okay. How can I take that money and now reinvest it or part of it to make more money? That's how I play. Andrew knows I'm very cagey when it comes to the futures market. That's where I live. I love
it works.
that.
You have a good process.
It does. It does. Except, you know what? Really disappointing 2024 baseball season. I'm just going to say it. So many injuries. So mad, because the other years going forward, like 2022, Verlander at 25-1. Cy Young nailed that. Harper MVP at 30-1. Nailed that. Like, so good on the process for the 2 years before that. So much money. And then last year, it was like over in April because Acuna was hurt and then Strider was hurt, and any parlays that I had, there were so many thousands of dollars because I got Ohtani right, but everything was paired with those guys too, because I flew too close to the sun, Andrew. That's what it was. I flew too close to the sun. So I got to take a deep breath in 2025. Stay with me for the baseball betting this year too. We're going to make a lot of money doing that. All right. Before we get to the last game on the slate, and it is last but not least for sure, let's talk about where the cool kids hang out. If you're looking to up your game in sports betting, join our exclusive sports betting Discord community over at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers like Matt Peralt and, of course, Andrew Erickson, provide free picks for NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, player props, live betting, and more, But now you can also participate in our weekly community picks. Also, cast your vote, see how your picks stack up against the experts, and track your success only on our Discord, bettingpros.com/chat. Erickson, here we go. The big game. Baltimore, Buffalo. Nothing's moved. Baltimore still 1-point favorite in most markets. 51.5 is the number. Give me the Baltimore Ravens teased up to 3. I'm good. I probably would even push it further. I just think Baltimore is going to decisively. I don't want to say smash. I don't get over my skis here. I think they're going to decisively win this game. I think Josh Allen will have a weird Josh Allen moment, as he tends to do in some of these bigger spots where he tries to do too much. And that will be the undoing at the end for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I don't want to depress Bills fans because they have lived in depression since the early 90s, and that's just not nice of me. But Andrew Erickson, that's just where I feel I'm at right now with this Ravens team. They look so good. They look so unstoppable on the ground. And I just don't think the Bills defense has an answer for them.
I agree. I'm on the Ravens here as well. I think for me, I'm just going to do Ravens money line and just not sweat the, oh my God, they won by 1 point, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think the Ravens are going to win. That's what I'm going to put my money in on, is the Ravens winning this game. And I like the over. Look, you have the two MVP favorites going head to head. And when push comes to shove, you know who's going to take the ball and make a play. It's going to be the two quarterbacks, because that's kind of the theme with their MVP seasons, right? Other than Derrick Henry, it's really been them kind of supporting the receivers around them. Again, you saw the Ravens get the best out of Zay Flowers. We don't know if he's going to play in this game, right? He's still injured. We don't know if he's even going to be available. So it's going to be Lamar with Andrews and Rashad Bateman and getting the best out of those guys. And then the Bills, the story of the season was, will there be a wide receiver one that steps up? They got rid of Stephon Diggs. And Shakir had his moments, but nobody was really that number one wide receiver. And we'll see if that ends up hurting them in the end, whether that was the right decision to make or not, because we're going to have to see some of these Ravens or some of these Bills receivers step up if the Buffalo Bills are going to come away with the upset here. And one of the props I really like in this game is actually James Cook under his rushing yards. I don't think this is a game where the Bills can run the football. The Ravens have just been so good. Like, two guys have gone over 60 rushing yards against the Ravens this season. Saquon Barkley and Najee Harris. And Najee Harris got to play the Ravens 3 times. so he had one shot where he got the 62 yards. So it's not like he blew it out of the water. So I think Buffalo's going to become one-dimensional. And we'll see if this hodgepodge group of receivers, Shakir, Cooper, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, can somebody step up and make a play. Maybe this is the game where this is why they got Amari Cooper. We'll see. He's familiar with the Baltimore Ravens, obviously playing in Cleveland. So we shall see if this was the big spot for Amari Cooper the entire time. But then again, I don't know if that guy likes to play outside in the cold. I'm still not convinced.
Well, looking right now at the props, Derrick Henry, 97.5 rushing yards is a joke. I'm just going to run through the numbers since week 16. You ready? You ready, kids? 162, 147, 138, 186, pardon me. So yeah, I will tease this to, I don't know, like 120. Maybe that's a comfortable range for me. Give me the anytime touchdown there, which is already also minus by a fair amount, minus 225, but whatever. You can put that with a rushing total over and get it. The other one too, which is really interesting, is the receptions for Derrick Henry. Now, people might scoff at this, but it's a very low number. It's 1.5. So I guess he gets 2 balls, which he did in week 16, week 17, and week 18. Now, he did not catch 2 balls against Pittsburgh, but Andrew Erickson, I like the small numbers. Scott Bogman, I love the small numbers. Can I interest you in this small number?
No, because going back to who didn't play in those games that he hit at the over, Justice Hill. So that's why I'm staying away from the again for me with anything receiving with Derrick Henry. I want the yards, because that guy catches one screen. It's either going to be negative 8 yards because he just gets tackled immediately, or it's going to be 80-yard touchdown. So I would rather play the receiving. But again, I don't think you need to overthink this, Joe. You just take the rushing yards. He's going to go over 100.
I'm not overthinking. I'm just trying to poke around.
What did you just say? You're flying too close to the sun. We like Derrick Henry as a rusher, not as a receiver.
Yes, Dad. Okay. Lamar Jackson, 51.5 is the number on his rushing total. He went over this in week 13, 79 against the Giants, week 15, 65, under against Pittsburgh. Okay. Over against Houston, 87, over in Cleveland, 63, over against Pittsburgh, 81 last week. So 51.5. How do you feel about that bad boy?
I like that. I think when push comes to shove, these quarterbacks are going to call their number. and they're going to run relentlessly if their guys aren't open. And if the Ravens don't have Zay Flowers, why not? Why wouldn't Lamar Jackson be running all the time? I'm actually looking here on FanDuel. They have a couple, again, all these playoff games have game specials. I was trying to see odds of, the quarterbacks combining for a certain amount of rushing yards. And I just looking at one, for example, in the first half, if both guys rush for 25 yards, it's plus 1,400 for Josh Allen and Lamar to both rush for 25 yards in the first half. So again, something along those lines. I'm not sure if that's the exact play.
There's a lot of those, Derrick Henry to have 10 rushing yards in each quarter, stuff like that too, which is really it sounds really intriguing, but I don't know. It feels a little trappy to me too. It's well,
it probably is.
It probably is. So I'm just, like you said, I'm just gonna stay the course. I'd rather bet heavily on the things I know than try to spread myself out too thin. It's so tempting because we get to these games where there's only 4 games left. The next week 2 games, we get so itchy because there's so many different things. They start pumping all these specials down your throat, and all of them sound huge paydays and stuff, but a little tricky. I want to talk about Mark Andrews for a second too. Anytime touchdown for Mark Andrews plus 155. I am in on this. You know why? Because he hit this every single week since week 10, except for 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers and a 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round. So he has been money. So I'm in. I'm in on the Mark Andrews touchdown. What do you think?
That's kind of where he's used the most is in the red zone. And if there's no Zay Flowers, that would be
that's the
other
matchup
that he'd be able to expose. Yep. So yeah, it's either going to be him. Him and Bateman are the ones that Lamar's leaned on. So I really hope we don't get a Jahan Dotson-esque first touchdown. That would make me very sad. But Devontae Walker, Tylan Wallace, those guys are out there running routes. Isaiah Likely again as another.
I'm sure there's going to be a Mac Hollins touchdown. I don't know what the number is on it, but I mean, if there isn't, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I mean that also is an interesting way to play this game because there are a lot of kind of unknown. I shouldn't say unknown, but lesser known popular receivers that you're going to get some insane value on. Someone's going to hit big on the first touchdown score.
What's the Mac Hollins number? Guess.
For a first touchdown or any time?
No,
touchdown?
Just any touchdown.
Oh, it's got to be
plus what?
Is it plus? I'll say plus 350.
Plus 500.
Oh, it was. Okay, that's how I initially thought. I was like, that seems kind of long. But no.
It's 500. Let's go. All right, so lots of fun here. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be breaking down the best bets of all the games. Then on Friday, the best props of all the games. Then on the weekend, we got live streams galore, including the live in-game version here. Back again by popular demand. So if you missed it last time, well, that's on you. Don't miss it the second time. Tune in. Joey P, Scott Bogman, we're going to watch, we're going to react, we're going to give you live betting advice right here on the channel during the divisional round of the playoffs. Chiefs-Texans. We only do Texans games around here. That's what we've decided. Texans are in the playoffs. We show up. Now, look, next week on the Sunday, I don't think if they continue to win, they're going to show up. But at least we're going to get one more week in the sun here. It was super fun last week. So make us your second screen experience for the NFL playoffs. It'll be a hell of a lot more entertaining to listen to us talk about betting than listening to the real broadcast itself. Can I get an amen on that, Andrew Erickson?
Amen. And shout out to the Texans because I heard that if they make it the Super Bowl, they're actually going to move the game to Saturday.
Texans only play on Saturday. Just so Scott Bogman and I can continue to do some of the in-game live betting experience.
Super Bowl Sunday is no more.
That's right. Super Bowl Saturday, boys and girls. That's right. It's Texan style. That's how we do it. All right. Great stuff here, Andrew. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell till it goes ding, and comment below so you can win that Jalen Waddle jersey. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.